Amazing. Greta, you're muted. I think I'm pinned. So technology's working for start of a good class. Hi, I'm Veronica. Hi, I know Emily, but is it Karen? Karen?
Karen.
Karen. Cool. Nice to meet you, Karen. And this is a yin class based on kind of our anatomy. I am a massage therapist as well as a yoga teacher. I studied with Greta at Practice School of Magic, and I do yin all the time, and it's helped me a lot in different injuries and moving through pain and things like that. So we really wanted to have a yin class that was kind of anatomy based, that really explored putting our joints into these positions that they don't normally go in. Oh, hi Emma, hi Darcy. So yeah, we wanted to explore that. And so today's class is going to be about the ball and socket joints. So there are two ball and socket joints in the body. There's the shoulders, the glenohumeral joint, and the hip joint. What's special about the ball and socket is it can move in all planes, you know? It can do, basically all the movements and go anywhere we want them to go. The first one I want to talk about, though, is the shoulder. So it's a really mobile, frequently used joint in the body. We're doing everything with our arms. But actually, the shoulder is working two separate movement structures. So we have our arm, but we also have the scapula, you know? And the arm has its own set of movements. It can go up, it can go down, it can go like this, but the scapula does too. So the scapula can shrug, it can go up and down, they could curl in, they could open out. And that actually gives up to 48 different combined movements, which is kind of crazy. Fortunately, in this class, we won't be doing all of that, but yeah, 48 different movements, all within this upper region. Next is the hips. So the hips, this joint gets easily tight, I think, for everyone. I know sometimes in the morning, my hips kind of feel like they've been shrink wrapped. And that's because the ligaments holding the joint together over time get smaller, shorter, and tighter. Stretching these joints, stretching the hip joint can really improve lower back pain if you're feeling any. It can also improve knee and ankle pain if maybe those joints are compensating for what's going on in the hips. And hips are also said to hold a lot of kind of our psychological too. So often when we open our hips, not only do we feel pain and stress in the joint themselves, but also pain and stress in kind of the psychology going on in our heads, the dialogue. And I think what's most important, and the last thing I want to touch on the ball and socket joint, is that these two joints sandwich kind of all of our organs. So, and then all of the joint structures in between, like your ribs and your spine, don't move as much. They don't have the free movement of these joints. The ribs and the spine and everything in between are performing like their own necessary functions. They're digesting, they're keeping our hormones balanced, they're helping us breathe. And so the ball and socket joints are kind of meant to do all the work. And energetically, they're taking in all of the work and the stress and affecting everything sandwiched in between them and how they function and how they work. So in this sequence that we've designed, we've slowed it down a bit from the last one, giving kind of longer holds and kind of adding to the stress and the positions of the joints. We're going to be doing a lot more extension because I just feel like we've been so it's getting fall. So, and you know, we've been inside for so long. So we're all kind of like this. So we're going to be doing a lot of extension and kind of stressing that movement in this class. And hopefully that gives a little more space too to everything in between. And now I'll hand it off to Greta, who's going to take us through the class, but I'll be peppering in kind of stuff throughout as we go. Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Veronica. And hello to our late joiners. Happy you are here. We are going to start class today in Yin. They call it the long-winged butterfly, or Baddha Konasana. Just bring the soles of the feet to touch. And once you arrive, this is definitely a Yin style class, so leave a generous distance in between your pelvis and your heels. And you may even want to sit on a book, or maybe if you have some, like a mat or something laying around to help here, I've got a book back here that I could use to help the pelvic bowl kind of tilt downwards. So the tail is flaring. And for the forward fold, inhale to find length in your spine, and then exhale to fold forward. And unless you're dealing with like a slip disc or herniated disc, it really is okay to just let your spine round here, let the head hang heavy. And you are welcome to grab pillows and like stack them up, or take any configuration to help support your chest, let the head hang. And you can even put blocks or pillows under your knees too if you're feeling a lot of tension in the adductors. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer, if I can find my phone. And we will get into kind of the Yin explanation part of class. Okay. So Yin, I always like to talk about the energetic qualities associated with Yin, because I think that's part of the reason I love this practice so much, is because I really feel like there's so much going on constantly in our external environments that's really, really beneficial, at least for me in my life, to have energetic time to just be slow and to practice the energetic qualities associated with Yin. And so it's going to be more of a nourishing practice. It's a slower practice. It's definitely going to be less dynamic than a vinyasa practice. And Yin, of course, is the opposite of Yang, or Yang energy. So yes, it's slower, it's darker, it's not bright, it's not motion. And there are 3 pillars, or 3 tattvas to this practice. And the first is to find your gentle edge. And we've already kind of talked about the edge because we're already in our first pose. And one of the main things we have to remember with this gentle edge is that we want to be able to sustain and hold that pose for time. So you may not go your full range of motion. You may not go as deep as you would go if you're only going to be there for 30 seconds, because we're actually going to be in this hold for 5 more minutes. So if you get here and you're like, oh God, no way, like pull the edge back. So finding your edge, or pertinent depth, I like that phrase too. And then the second thing is to be still. And there are 2 reasons in which you would move in this practice. And the first, if you're invited to go deeper, like of course, follow your edge. After the first couple minutes, if your body and the muscles start to relax, follow your edge. And the other reason is if you're experiencing pain. And I think pain, and I don't think this is just me, I feel like it's like persevere through the pain. Like I feel like that's very much like ingrained in our culture, like you've got this. And that is not the attitude we have in Yin. Like no burning sensations, no sharp stabbing sensations, and we even want to avoid tingling sensations, because that could maybe eventually cause nerve damage. And then the third thing is that we hold for time, and I keep track of time on my phone. Something that I've been noticing in my home practice, because it really is a different practice than a practice in another location, is this idea of clearing before class starts. And I've found actually my phone is a horrible distraction for me as a practitioner. And so if I was you right now, I would just like put that phone, put it on airplane mode, like toss it, don't toss it, it might break, but like maybe move it away from you. And do anything else you need to do to clear things out of your way, maybe in between the next pose, just so you can really arrive and be here. For time, I keep track of it, like I said, on my phone. I will have my phone. I give a halfway mark, which is right now, actually, exactly. And then I also give a final minute. And I don't do this so you have to obsess about time. I do it so it's a little easier, hopefully, for you to surrender into the practice. Like, okay, I've got half of it left, just 60 more seconds. It helps me have some ease knowing that information, like the length of the time. And Veronica already did such a great job talking about anatomy and talking about the combating the shrink wrapping of the muscles. Like, that is definitely one of the benefits of yin. Also encourages, it helps prevent the degeneration of your bones. So it helps encourage bone growth, which is really cool, I think. I never really thought about my bones, like, in taking care of them in an active way before. And in this practice, we're stressing and connecting the connective tissue, the ligaments, the bones, and the joints. And so in a vinyasa class, or if you're running or you're biking, like, we're very much accessing the muscles in our bodies, and they love to move. They love repetition, but we're looking to stress and compress the connective tissue, ligaments, and the bones, and the joints. They have to be accessed in this other way, which is these long compressed holds. And so that's kind of like how we're achieving the result of what's going on in the practice. I did do some paging through old notes. I like to study anatomy for this class. And I found a thing here that fascia accounts for 20% of our body weight. That, like, blew my mind. I was like, what? So that's actually a huge percentage of what's going on in the body. And I don't want to talk forever, actually, really, in any of the poses. I think yin, part of its beauty is that you get to sit in the silence. So this is the only pose I'm gonna, like, really gab on. We've got 1 minute left in this hold. And I really don't have much to add besides be there for yourself with kindness, compassion. When you're in stillness, I think it can be really easy for the mind to get loud or, like, obnoxious, or maybe just fall into some of its habits. And so just turn towards that with compassion and try to be patient with yourself, not judge. And also, when you do come up and out of these poses, which we're about to in a few moments here, move slowly. You don't have to rush out. Be deliberate with how you're going to exit, and enjoy the counter movement of each pose. And this class is obviously designed for the shoulders and the hips. So a lot of emotion can come up in this kind of class setting because we're working into parts of our body that hold tension, they hold stress. So just being patient with yourself and being kind. And gently, over the next few breaths, press the torso upwards, walk the hands back towards the pelvis, lift the head, relax the neck, relax your shoulders, and take any counter movement your body is craving. After a long hold like that, if you want to flow through like cat and cow seated, or maybe you want to take this version of tabletop, kind of pressing your pelvis up, letting the head fall back. Really whatever is going to serve you most. And it's going to be probably different for everyone what that movement is going to feel like. And gently over the next few breaths, coming back to a seat. And there are a lot of different entries into this posture. We're going to set up shoelace legs or Gomukhasana legs or cow face pose legs. And so for this pose, bringing the right leg over the left leg. You can come into like a tabletop and kind of work your way back if that's an easier transition. But bringing right leg up and over the left. And when you get here, if the left knee is like, ooh, like no way, or the ankle, it's like having a hard time, that's normal. We've all had injuries, that can happen. Just extend the left leg out long, or maybe the muscles just felt too tight. And this is still gonna get all the benefits of what we're trying to do in this pose. If you're feeling a lot of tension in the top leg, put a pillow in there, put a block in there, put a book in there, just to kind of alleviate that tension. And just getting yourself set up, however it's going to be for you in your practice today. And then we're going to work into eagle arms, because since we're doing this with our hips, we thought we might as well access the shoulders as well. So inhale, sweep your arms up. And exhale, bring right arm under left arm. And you can choose to kind of just embrace yourself here, grasping for opposite shoulder. This is a good place to be. Or if you want to go for the bind, wrapping the arms around each other and bringing the palms to touch, that's okay too. And this is a good place to be if this feels like a lot in the shoulders, if it feels really active, or you can choose to fold forward, bringing the chest down, bringing the forehead down. Forearms may rest upon the top of your legs. You may even choose to bring the elbows all the way down to the earth, letting the head hang, maybe the chin rest on top of the knee. That may be too much. So just, again, finding your edge. How is this going to serve you? And I'm going to go ahead and start my timer. We've probably already been here for about a minute, so we have another 4 minutes in this pose. And with the intention of Yin being a more quiet practice, I am going to cease my talking, and Veronica may interject with some helpful Yin and anatomical tips. And if you're feeling any tension or anxiety kind of being induced, trying to connect with your breath, really focusing on the intake of oxygen and then the release of CO2 with a cyclical process, directing your attention there. And this is the halfway point.
And I wanted to add in, your hips are doing 3 movements at the moment. So they are flexing, they are also externally rotating, and they are adducting at the same time. So it's a nice little 3-in-1 with this pose. I love this pose.
And we're coming up on the final minute marker right here. Vertebrae by vertebrae, slowly begin to lift your torso, lift the head. You can release any arm grip that you've taken. And maybe you want to do a few shoulder rolls, backwards, forwards, maybe even a little twist, right to left, left to right. And then we're going to practice on the other side. And we're going to do the transition where you kind of pivot all the way around the mat and then you end up with the other leg on top. You don't have to do this, but it is kind of fun. Bringing both hands onto the left side, almost like you're going to go into like a side crow. But then instead of doing that, pressing the palms into the mat, bending your legs and pivoting yourself all the way around so you're facing the back of your mat. And continue twisting, keeping the feet exactly where they are. And then end up with the left leg on top and the right leg on the bottom. Not necessary, but it is kind of a fun transition. And when you arrive, like I just arrived and I can tell like this left leg feels really tight compared to the other side. And there may be differences from side to side. So maybe you need to extend the bottom leg out this time. Maybe on this side, you need like a little extra support on the left. I'm actually gonna do that. But really finding the props are there to support you. They're there to prop you up. So not shying away from the props, utilizing them as much, especially in Yin, as much as you want. And then we'll switch sides. So inhale your arms up. And this time bring left arm under the right. And you can choose, I kind of did this embrace last time. I felt like it was really like soothing. You can also choose to go for the bind, wrapping the arms around, maybe bringing the hands to touch. And then slowly, if it feels like a safe range of motion for you, moving the chest forward. And you may stop with elbows on top of the legs. You may come all the way down, bringing forehead closer to the ground. And that feels like a lot for me, so I'm gonna kind of pull my edge back, but really just finding your edge. This is your practice, and your body is always gonna have the best guidelines for you. And remembering also to release tension where you tend to hold it. So if it's your jaw, relaxing your jaw, relaxing your forehead. If you're clenching the glutes, relaxing that, relaxing your belly. And letting that residual tension dissipate. And this is exactly the halfway mark. And this is the final minute. And remembering the magic in this practice really comes from the length of the hold. And so when you initially arrived, it may not really have felt like anything. But now that we're just passing our 4-minute marker, it might kind of be feeling like a lot. And knowing that yin, we don't want to feel pain, but we do want to be there with the discomfort that arises, kind of that like dull, achy sensation. If you're feeling that, you're doing it. And we are coming very close to the end of the hold. Vertebrae by vertebrae, begin to unfurl the spine. You can press the hands into the ground, lift the chest up, take any organic movement the body wants, maybe some wiggling, rolling around. And we already worked both sides, so you can unthread the left leg. Woo. And often I'm the only one that's not muted right now. I often want to be like have a physical or like a verbal release. So if you want to groan or there's noise you want to make, like please use that opportunity. You're kind of like completing the cycle of what's going on. I'm windshield wipering my legs right now. You're more than welcome to do that. It may feel really nice. Or if there's something else the body wants, go ahead and take that action. And yin is slow, so not rushing through anything. And then we'll meet in a tabletop, stacking shoulders over wrist, hips over knees. And if you want some support for the knees, you could even put like a pillow under the knees. I know sometimes people have sensitive knees. And we're gonna work into melting heart or puppy dog or anahata vishuddhasana. I actually like all the names, so I use all three. And you can slowly begin to walk the arms out in front of you, bringing forearms down, maybe bringing the forehead to the mat, maybe even bringing the chin to the mat. Hips are stacked over your knees. If you have a pillow, you could also use that to support the elbows, maybe to support the chest. I really encourage experimenting with props, especially in this practice, because we're here for time. And for me, this pose, and for Veronica as well, tends to be pretty intense. So we're only going to be here for 3 minutes. It's not a super long hold. Getting into the shoulders here, the glenohumeral joint. And since this pose does tend to be pretty loud, I'll talk just really quickly about the anatomy of the glenohumeral joint. It's the humerus, the clavicle, and the clavicle is like your collarbone. And then also the scapula, that's the socket. And you can think of the scapula as your shoulder blade. So we have all these like words for them already. Those are like the anatomical names, but it's those three bones that are making up this joint. And the shoulder actually has the greatest range of motion. It actually has greater range of motion than the hip. So it has, out of all the joints, it has the greatest range of motion. And look at that, we're already at our final minute. And gently, vertebrae by vertebrae, palm step by palm step, work your hands back under your shoulders and take any movement you need to, maybe cat-cow, flowing through flexion and extension. And then if you need to move any pillows out of the way, we're going to come to laying on our backs. And we're going to work into supported bridge. And for this, I actually do have a block. Another good prop for this is like a pillow, actually, just kind of like rolled up, like almost like a sleeping bag. Or also a book with maybe like a sweatshirt over it, or also another yoga mat. So hopefully you have something around or a block that you can use. And come to laying on the backs. We'll get set up for supported bridge. I'll give everyone a minute because you may need to grab your props. Hopefully everybody's got their stuff. And then bringing the block under the flat part of your back. And the flat part of your back is the sacrum, and that's where we want the block to be. For me, it's like right about here. And starting at first with the lowest edge. And if you have a yoga mat, I actually liked using the yoga mat when I tried it the other day as a block. It's got a nice cushion. Then the reason I recommend like a sweatshirt or something over the books is because I found the books to get kind of hard, so it's nice to kind of soften the surface. You can also be like down here. I know some people even like to take it all the way up here, but remember it's a 5-minute hold. So even though you have the range of motion to get all the way up there, you may not want to do that for 5 minutes. So, got the timer going here. We're already at 1 minute. And we're going to do supported bridge for 4 minutes. We've got 4 minutes remaining. We've already done 1 minute. And this is something I shared the last time we taught the hip class and the shoulder class. But there was a word, and I already forgot it though. So you maybe retained the information. But the Acetabulum, so it's spelled like Acetabulum. I heard someone online pronounce it Acetabulum, is Latin for small bowl. Is a deep socket formed by the junction of the ilium, the pubis, and the ischium. So you can just think of it as the bowl in your hip joint in your pelvis. And what allows the hip or the femur to move around in there is articular cartilage. It helps absorb shock, and it is what makes it so it can glide around. And Emily's talked about this before, how like the hips, in our hips, there's bowls and also your shoulders. And so it almost makes sense, like they're shaped like bowls, like they would collect water. It also makes sense they would like kind of collect our emotions, you know, like a little compartmentalization. So when we get into the hips and the shoulders, if there is like an old memory that surfaces or something, like oftentimes we do store that information in our bodies. So that's very much a part of the practice. And being with that experience, maybe just coexisting with it. You don't have to love it, just letting it be there, like you would let joy be there. And this is the halfway point. And we're coming up on the final minute here. And gently take whatever you have under your lower back. Begin to remove the block or the pillows or the stack of books with the sweatshirts, and let the hips come down. And once they're down, take a body scan, zero in on the lower back and where we were just really accessing, and take any counter movement. For me, I want to bring my knees in towards my chest and roll around the flat part of my back. You may want to extend one leg, the other leg, like really taking what counter movement the body desires. And Veronica is going to lead us through the next part of class.
Hi, so you're going to be hearing my voice now. So our next pose, we're going to be on our backs. We're going to grab our prop, again, whether it be a block or a book or a pillow. And we're going to move into fish pose. So for fish, you want to place the block right in between the two shoulder blades or where they might be. And simply lie back down on it, kind of opening up the shoulders with each arm dangling off the side and your head lying back. If the head lying back is too much on your neck, you can place a pillow behind there to support there. The whole purpose of this pose is to kind of open up the chest. So if that's the intention, just make sure your props are set up to do that. I know I can sometimes get a little dizzy with my head lying all the way back, so we don't want to do that. Another option is you can have your legs out straight, or if it's more comfortable, bring your knees up so you can have the feet flat on the ground, or have your legs in a cross-legged position as you lie back, allowing for some kind of internal rotation to happen here at the hips. And also might just bring some of the stress off the lower back. But feet on the ground works that too. Hold this pose we've been in it for about 30 seconds, so I'll hold it for another 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And again, this is a big heart opener. We're getting into our rib cage and our breathing muscles and kind of the lung and heart area. So if anything comes up, just breathe into them. If anything is sore, move a little bit out or add another layer of maybe some bolstering or padding. Or if this is too much altogether, you can always just lie flat on your back with your arms overhead, or like a starfish when making a starfish pose. And that's all good too. We are at our halfway point at this pose. If there's anything you need to adjust or maybe you want to change, this would be a good time to do it. If not, keep relaxing into this pose. The whole point of Yin is to put our joints in these positions of either compression or stretch and let the muscles do the relaxing. So in this pose, if you find yourself kind of with your shoulders near your ears. Relax them back down. If you find yourself clenching your jaw, or sometimes I feel myself squeezing my toes, make sure to relax those. Being aware of where you're holding and where you can relax and release. Final minute. All right, moving slowly. Maybe undo your legs first, or whatever leg position you took. Remove the props from underneath your head and between your shoulder blades. And a good counter pose for the fish. I like to also kind of just bring my knees in once again. Maybe do even a spinal twist, just real quick. Dropping knees from one side to the other. Getting ready for these last couple poses that we have. Whatever feels good. And we're gonna roll back onto our knees, kind of sitting up. We're gonna go into half pigeon. So another big hip opener. Start with our right leg first. So maybe let's get into a tabletop first. Reassessing our balance and where we are. Maybe bringing the right leg out long, giving it a little stretch. Looking forward. Maybe doing one of the cow poses. And then a cat. And then bring the right leg in front with the shin parallel to the top of the mat and the back leg out extended. Again, you can use a bunch of props if you need one under your hip, a block under there. Sometimes I feel some pinching, like in my left side where the leg's extended. And sometimes I feel some pinching in the front of the leg of the right. With that, maybe don't lean so far over your leg. Maybe come out and be sitting up like this for the whole pose. This is also a really hard pose on the knee. So if the knee is feeling it, it's not for all knees. You can move the foot back closer to your body, or you can take pigeon on your back, lying on your back, one foot over the right foot over the left knee, grabbing behind the left leg and pulling that closer to you. I also want to offer that if maybe hip rotation isn't your thing right now, you can also do a sleeping baby, which is you get on your mat face down and the leg goes out to the side, cheek on the mat. Whatever feels good in your body right now, whatever isn't causing pain, whatever your body's calling for. This is our halfway point. If you need to do any adjusting, you can maybe add some padding under the back knee or under the front knee. If you need to reassess your edge and go deeper into the pose, relax further into it. I also want to offer for our final minute, if you want to do a threading of the needle, you can take your left arm and raise it up and thread the needle through the right, underneath the right arm. I do that correct, yes. And let that relax into the, okay, am I doing that right? Right hand. Oh, sorry, take your right arm on the right leg up and thread it through with the left arm out forward. All right, moving slowly. Taking hands to the floor, pushing yourself out of the pose. Releasing that right leg, maybe giving it a nice stretch, maybe doing a down dog, maybe just giving it a wiggle or some rotation. I like to kind of have my leg out long and give a little calf stretch. And then we'll move on to the left side. So in your own time and at your own pace, after all the wonderful counter movements feel like you're satisfied, your body's ready, take the left leg parallel to the front of the mat, right leg out long, and slowly just lower down and ease into that. Again, these sides might feel really different. We were in the shoelace for a while, so we've gotten some external rotation of the hip already. So your hips have already kind of been here. But if there is any pain or discomfort, move a little out. You can be on your hands like this. Place a pillow between your left thigh and your body for a little more support. This is our halfway mark. Any adjustments Take as needed. Final minute. Option here to also thread the needle if you like, raising the left arm up, threading it through, giving a stretch to the deltoid and a little bit more in the shoulder blade. Moving slowly, coming out of the pose, placing your hands on the mat. If you've done it on your back, maybe releasing the grip on the back of the leg, taking any counter pose that feels good. I like to, again, stretch the left leg out or go into a little bit of lunge. And then we'll come to sitting back on our mats, and I will pass it off to Greta Rose.
All right. And we are going to seal class out with a twist and Shavasana. So we're already in a seat. And go ahead and bring the feet about hips width distance, or just right in front of the pelvis. And we're going to work into deer pose or stag pose. And for this one, let's start with windshield wipering the legs, right to left, left to right. Letting them fall right to left. And really trying to zero in on the ball and socket joint. You can even watch the legs move. And the next time the legs fall towards the right, let them go all the way down. You may need to scoot back a little bit, give yourself some space, and then create 90-degree angles or thereabouts with your legs. So one shin is going to be parallel towards one side of the mat, and the other side is going to be parallel. So they're on separate planes, I guess, perpendicular to each other. And from here, just kind of setting yourself up. You may need to scoot back. You may need to manually maneuver the legs. And then inhale to find length in your spine. And exhale, twist towards the back. And I'm actually going to rotate so my voice is not facing backwards. Twisting towards the back, and from here, like this could be a good place to stay. It may be a really nice twist. Actually feels really nice in my lower back right now. You can also choose to walk the forearms forward, maybe coming to a pillow, maybe coming to rest the chin on top of your hands. You can also kind of go back a few degrees and fold over the shin too, or fold over the knee. You can kind of play with where your edge is. And we are going to be here for 3 minutes on each side. So we have time for a nice long Shavasana, 5 minutes. And just letting the silence and the quiet really regenerate and nourish you. And pull energy up from the earth, or really just feel connected to sinking down. And this is the halfway mark. And the final minute. And gently begin to walk the hands back towards your pelvis, lifting the chest up, maybe having like a proud bird moment, chest puffing forward. And then coming back to neutral. And we'll do the other side. Windshield wipering the legs again, and this time letting the legs fall towards the left. Manually maneuvering the legs or maybe scooching the glutes back, getting yourself set up approximately 90 degrees. May not be quite that, maybe a little under. And then inhale, finding length in the torso. And exhale, twist towards the left. And option to stay lifted in your chest, option to put a pillow under the torso, under the head, or a couple of pillows, or option to fold over the knee or the shin. And this is the halfway mark. And we are in the waning part of the moon cycle, so maybe veering towards those qualities as well. Time for deep listening and reflection. And we're in the final minute. And gently begin to walk your hands back in towards your hips, lift the chest, unswivel the neck, unswivel your chest, come back to center. Do any last swiggling or bouncing of the legs or arms, or even flicking, fidgeting, whatever you gotta do. You may even want to take your hair down if you have your hair up for Shavasana, really like, or like a watch off or anything that might be tight. You can really be relaxed. And then coming into Shavasana, final rest. You can take Shavasana in a fetal position. You can take Shavasana on your belly. And I will guide you up and out of the practice when it is time to exit. And of course, you're always welcome to stay longer. And slowly begin to invite subtle movements back into your body. It may just be gentle wiggles of the fingers. Maybe you want to relax your face and then scrunch it up. Wiggle your nose. Invite bouncing into the legs. Just subtle, soft movements. And bring the arms above you, stretching, lengthening them above head. Bringing the knees in towards your chest. And choosing if you'd like to roll over onto the right or the left side. Left is going to be very much in alignment with the end of the day, with these more yin qualities of slowing down and yielding. And then using your bicep like a pillow. And feeling connected to the ground. And extending gratitude and a wave of appreciation to yourself for doing this practice, for having the space and time carved out to do this practice, and also to the earth, to holding you during this practice, and also, of course, to yourself for doing this work that can be really hard to take the time for, to be quite honest. So giving yourself like a mental high five to everyone here too for doing this. And honoring the lineage of this practice is pretty expansive. The lineage of yoga is rooted in India and has its origins in like the Vedas and the sutras of Patanjali. But this is a yin class, so it also has roots in Taoist theory and Chinese medicine, and they've been integrated together into this practice in which we call yin. We're also placing a huge anatomical emphasis on this practice. And we like to end also on a land acknowledgement. This class comes to you from the East Coast and the West Coast. We honor the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish people and the unceded ancestral lands of the Lapade, Canarisi, and Rockaway people. The land we occupy is on the traditional territory of Coast Salish people in Seattle and Lapade people in Brooklyn. We honor the indigenous traditions for the ancestors and also the people still here today who continue to carry those traditions forward. And you can gently press yourself up to a seat. You can keep the eyes closed, flutter them open. And we'll meet with hands at heart center. In this gesture, it represents non-dualism, the coming together of these oppositional forces. You can even take a moment to feel the connection of your thumb to the heart, wisdom and compassion that resides there, also the abundance that can flow from there. And bringing that from the heart to third eye, strengthening the connection between your heart and your mind. And bowing forward to seal in your practice, honoring the full gamut of your experience, both the dark and the luminous qualities. Peace and thank you for being here. Thank you so much for coming to this class. Next week, we're teaching a class on sciatica and lower back pain and kind of the anatomy involved there. It's also a really good preventative class. And I don't know if it's just me, but I think like every third person I meet has sciatica now. Or maybe I just am like talking about anatomy too much. I don't know. But it's a really, really fabulous class. It's kind of like why we started this class. And thank you so much for being here. I'm going to put my Venmo information in the chat box, and Veronica and I split all of our funds. And if you ever have any questions, like stick around, ask any question after class. I'm also going to put my email in here. Veronica is probably going to put hers in there as well. I think I just turned down my light somehow. But otherwise, have a really, really good evening. Sleep well. And I hope you a good